Hey everybody, welcome to the look back on the Storybook Woods story, Once Upon a Full Moon video review time. It's about the 10th time I've actually tried to record this, so it's cursed. The whole video is cursed. So if this actually works, I'll be amazed. But I've put my USS Sulaco cap on now, so that's obviously going to solve all the problems. And what I'm going to do is look back at Once Upon a Full Moon, which is the Storybook Woods story. And this is my favourite story, I think. This is my favourite story. For the reasons being that this is the story that opened up lots of other possibilities and things that perhaps haven't actually been communicated through yet, but I had lots of things dangling, lots of threads dangling at the end of this one, and this is the one that sort of prompted me to keep going with the writing, because there's a lot of opportunities in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you the notes that I had from before I wrote it, go through the video and see how they communicated through and what I was trying to do with my writing and how I was trying to sort of bring through my ideas in the writing. And this is an interesting one because I actually had the idea for this, or some of the preliminary ideas for this, before I even got the feature film for it. I thought Storybook Woods is going to be such a cool location to look at, and it really sort of opened up a lot of things. So I did have a lot of ideas before I went into it, but actually a lot of how it's going to develop going forward came from the actual game, like it did with the first one, like it did with my Camp Happy Trails one. Okay, so what I've got is sort of half a page of notes, and I said I wanted it to be a lighter tone. I said it wanted it to be Alice in Wonderland type of thing, a storybook kind of vibe to it. I've got abstract question mark. I've got a red blue pill from the Matrix, more contemporary, more old-fashioned at the same time. Don't know if that came through. A framework for it, I've got Red is a stroppy teenager and a writer writing a story about Hans and Laurie, question mark. Takes mushrooms to grandma's, eats the mushrooms, enters Storybook Woods. Her vocabulary changes to be polite, i.e. she starts to say what the f, and it comes out as how odd. The victims want to be rescued. Example, well, you must take us to X. Why? Because it's Storybook Woods, silly. The wolf is the bad part of Red, and this is the theme that I was trying to sort of hint at all the way through the story. The wolf is the bad part of Red, which has become separated from her as she entered the woods and now has a life of its own. In the end, neither of them will die, which is a concept that I think I'm beginning to embrace more as I write. Perhaps the characters don't have to die if they die, as long as you sort of make it clear that you lost. Don't know, but that's something that I'm not scared of looking at and not sort of worried about doing. If Red wins, the wolf will be bound to the myth of the werewolves and only hunt at full moon. Oh no, you can't kill a wolf, my dear. You've just weakened it. If the wolf wins, Red will be pulled back from Storybook Woods just as she's dying, snapping back between the woods and reality, as she is rescued by Grandma, reviving her just in time. That sort of happened as well. Ending will explain that Storybook Woods is a place where people go to confront their fears or dark sides and conquer it with help from Grandma. Either way, Red has introduced an almost unstoppable killer into the woods, now known as Red Wolf, and Grandma uses her magic mirror to call Gretel to come and solve the problem. And I've got a note here saying maybe use the gruesome death book and have Red comment that she isn't doing this, she wouldn't write it like this, something like that. Someone else is writing a story. So I think I've got the concept that it's a sort of story within a story, and a lot of things happen that sort of develop that, and I come back to it. So I'm going to start the video and let's have a look at how it goes. So we're starting off with the storybook idea.
That's right. Closer still.
And we come straight in when it opens with Red.
Oh, so you think you've heard this one
writing the Hans and Laurie story, which was a bit of a pain in the backside because it forced. This was before I wrote the final part, so the words I used in here had to then be used in the Wolf Horror story, which was a little bit of a pain in the backside because it made it a little bit clunky.
The cheery voice called upstairs. Red momentarily looked up from her computer, ignored the voice, and continued to type.
So I'm trying to get across with this little bit that she's sort of very stroppy. What do you want? Leave me alone.
Chantal, the voice called again.
So she's
Typing
ignoring her mother.
furiously, Red continued to write. Laurie's face did not change.
Yeah, these
I
are
know.
the actual.
Red! the
I
voice
actually
yelled.
wrote this bit
What? Red
to
snapped,
sort of
slamming her
fit in
laptop
with this
closed and
story. Then I
stomping
had to
downstairs.
shoehorn that
Oh,
dialogue
there you
into
are.
Wolf
How's the story
Horror,
going?
the final
Fine,
hand story, to
replied
make it
curtly, scowling
make
at her
sense.
stepmother. Now I need you to run an errand for me.
So
Red stepped on
she's
her
she's
head, looking
stomped
over her
downstairs
face.
and she's been asked to take the
And I
mushrooms
don't want to hear any
to grandma's.
excuses, she added, preemptively.
She's not happy about it, but she does like going to her grandma's. So
I said
all in
no
all,
excuses, unless you want me to confiscate that
she's
laptop of yours.
relaxed about it a bit.
Red sighed. Fine,
Fine,
Susan. What do you
whatever.
want? I need
she
you to take
brightens
this
up when
basket
she
of
knows she's going to
mushrooms over
grandma's.
You know I'd normally do it, but the bus drivers are on strike, and it's
Susan's a little bit of a.
my bad leg
I think Susan's. A lot of these characters are going to come back because, like I said, I left a lot dangling, a lot unexplained here through the entire story.
Okay, Red replied,
And it's given me the opportunity to come back and address those questions, and I think Storybook Woods is the key to a lot of
Yes,
things.
stay left on the fork at the path. I know, Red completely.
So I'm trying to just sort of introduce a choice here. Could she go? She's been told to go left. She decides to turn right. She's been told
Don't eat the
to
mushrooms.
not eat the mushrooms. She decides to eat the
Red left the
mushrooms. We've got
house.
red
Normal
mushrooms and
70
blue
takes out
mushrooms,
the
which
new
are
forest
going to be important
Strolling briskly
elements
away,
in
clutching
future
past
stories.
She paused momentarily, putting up her hood. It had suddenly turned quite chilly. Dark clouds.
And I tried to write it in more of an English
Why do I have to run
style,
this
English
stupid errand?
language,
Red shuddered to
because
herself.
it's quite hard for me. I'm
Within
not
a few
hard.
minutes, she
That's
was at the
that's the
path
wrong
that
word.
led-
But it takes a lot more
glanced down
thought
the
for me to
basket.
write
The mushrooms
Americanisms.
sure looked delicious, both
So
the
I
red
thought,
ones and the
you
blue
know,
ones. Surely Grandma
law-wise,
would
red
miss one.
is actually American, I think, but I'm not going to
That
make her
thought she
English
reached
because it's
down,
just easier
carefully
for my
plucked red mushrooms from the
dialogue
basket and popped into her mouth.
writing.
She said aloud as the mushroom melted on her tongue, sweet and buttery.
So my initial thought
Continued
was
down the path, subconsciously popping
the whole
another
thing
couple of
could be
mushrooms in her mouth as she went.
a sort
Till
of
after
trip,
few
a
more
mushroom
minutes, she
trip.
reached the fork. Stay left at the fork.
She's eating the
Red
mushrooms.
herself
She
with
sort of goes into
chilly.
Storybook Woods. Is it real?
Right
Is
hand
it
fork
a
looked so inviting
is it
to
a
her.
drug-induced
Where the left path to Grandma's
thing?
house
I
looked
didn't really
cold and grey.
explore that. I don't
Right
think it
seemed sunny
actually
and
came
bright.
to it.
Red shrugged, popped another mushroom to her mouth, and turned right. As Red skipped down the trail, the colours became even brighter.
And we're sort of
Dull greens became vivid and
gone
constant.
into Storybook Woods now.
The sky went
Storybook
dull grey,
Woods
shone bright blue,
is
and the clouds hung like giant.
a very sort of fantastical realm, so it's
Morning, Red,
become
she had
cartoon-like.
voice rang out.
That's a theme I'm going to come back
Fuck
to
me,
a
a
lot.
talking squirrel.
Fuck
she
me,
said,
a talking squirrel.
Only the words didn't come out like
And
that.
then her
What came
dialogue's
from my
changed.
mouth
I had
was
this
follows.
down as an idea.
Talking
Her
squirrel,
dialogue's
how
changed.
peculiar. Red rounded the corner.
She
found
tries to
herself
swear,
somewhere
but
quite
because she's in Storybook Woods, it
Welcome
comes
to
out as
Storybook Woods,
polite.
Red.
So
The
it
squirrel chirped before turning
sort
scowling
of signify we've entered a
Red giggled,
different
and stooped
reality.
down to pluck one of the pale yellow flowers. Primroses. How beautiful.
And again, I'm still writing the
Elsewhere,
events in
on the
and
far eastern edge of
the
Storybook
tarot
Woods,
cards
a
all the way
large,
through this.
silver-looking reddish-brown eye opened,
And here's the
adjusting
wolf.
to the light.
Curious.
Curious, mumbled the voice. A voice that wouldn't be
I like the character of the wolf. The wolf's coming back. I think
The wolf
the
looked
wolf's
down
coming
at
back
his claws
as
and
both
wiped
the
his
final
teeth.
girl
His bright white
and the
face
villain
shimmered
again.
white in
Very
contrast.
versatile character, I think the wolf is
My,
going to
what
be.
big teeth I have. It mused sinisterly,
And I
swinging to its haunches and stiff in the air.
sort of had the,
Red looked
as I was
around.
writing the wolf, sort
Where
of had a
was she?
sort of Tim
Where was the squirrel?
Curry-like
Why was it talking? So many questions.
character in my head for the
Vivid
wolf.
cartoon colours burned.
And
Red's
again,
eyes.
we're sort of just going with
Her
the
head was starting
fact
to
that we're in a cartoony type
Confused, she
world.
headed down the only path she could see.
And what I'm trying to do is
In
leave
her head, she
hints
heard a
through
ringing
this,
voice.
because obviously the
Curious.
ending is going to
Dark
be
and
that the
sinister.
wolf is red or
Red
part
entered the
of
glen.
red.
Rolling
So
hills
I'm
bordered on both
trying to
sides.
leave hints of
Possible,
connections
she
between the
thought.
two all the way through my
Red,
writing.
Red, over here.
If you don't
Voice
pick up
snapped
on
her
it,
back.
then it
She looked
might
round to find the source of it,
come
finding
back.
focus on the small, odd-looking
when you come back and look at it,
moustache.
it actually
Standing
perhaps
no more than
makes
4
sense,
feet tall,
even if you didn't
vicious
pick up on it
gentleman
on the way
about the
through.
action.
There was
The
a
orange
lot
bowler
of.
hat
I
and
wrote
the
this
from
and I
his
thought,
head.
oh, that's great, that's done.
Red looked closer
And I
saw
had
the
to do a
man's
lot
moustache freshly
of
made up
editing
with 2
because there were
fat
lots of little things that just
Mayor
needed
Tumbledown, at your service. the man
sort of tying up.
Now, we don't have much time. No, we don't. We must get moving.
And Mayor
But
Tumbledown,
first,
and so
you
I
must know
started
what
writing
brought you,
the first
the mayor
victim,
said hurriedly
or the
to
first
Red.
character,
Red looked down at the stranger.
Mayor
confused.
Tumbledown.
I'm sorry, Mayor Tumbledown.
I
can't say
started
that I
off
follow.
writing
Red, we weren't expecting
completely
you.
and utterly
Obviously
silly,
an honour that you are
made-up
here,
characters.
the mayor replied, bowing again.
And he
It's
has.
important to know what you brought. I brought mushrooms, Red replied. looking
No,
down
no,
at the
no. What
basket
you
and
brought,
looking
as
around
in what you
confusion.
brought into the
The
woods
basket
with
was
you, as in
Mayor Tumbledown rolled
wolf.
his eyes. Oh, my dear girl, we must hurry. We have
But
work
Red
to do.
doesn't
Lead
understand.
the
So
way.
the idea,
The
what
way
did you
where,
bring,
Red
as in
asked
what are we
whimsically.
facing? Because
Oh,
the
only you can
idea
decide
was
that, my
that
dear. We just
people would
follow.
come into
Now
the
lead on.
woods, it would
Mary
split off a
replied.
bad part of their
Confused, Red
personality.
did as asked.
They would then
Leaving the
face
glen,
down
the
their
stranger
personality.
from
Inspired by an episode of
She
Rick and
turned
Morty, I
towards the
think,
rabbit.
where they sort of split off their
Peeking from the window,
bad
Willow spied
sides.
the two visitors approaching.
But obviously, Red's a little bit special,
Willow,
and she's
Willow,
brought a wolf
shouted
in,
Ned.
which never happens.
There's no use hiding. Can't you see we have an esteemed guest? As Willow
Second
peeked
one
from the
is
window,
also a made-up
Red caught
character.
slight glimpse of
Is
a small
Willow
mousy
the
looking
mousy
woman.
girl.
In fact,
Mouse
very
girl.
mousy looking, with a long nose, whiskers, and big front teeth. She was even nibbling on a piece of cheese.
I like Willow.
Now look
with
here,
her
Red said.
squeak
I do not know
dialogue.
what is happening, but someone had better explain it to me before I
And again, Red's dialogue is very...
Oh, Red, I'm sorry.
precise
this is all my
here.
fault. Mare Tumbledown stabbered, slumping
I missed the bit on the
forward, beginning to
caterpillars.
sob.
Mare Tumbledown's
we simply weren't
eyebrows are
expecting you,
caterpillars
and
that
such
do a
an
runner in a
important
bit.
guest. We were
And
not
I got a
prepared,
feeling
not
that they're
prepared
coming
in
back.
the
Because a lot of these characters are going to
Squeak,
come back when we
said
come
Willow,
back to Storybook Woods. I think
I'm
the
sorry,
caterpillars
Red
might be the
replied,
mare.
but to be quite frank, I'm beginning to
They might appear somewhere
I have
else
such a headache that I'm
from
talking to a
Mare
man with
Tumbledown's
caterpillars
mus-
for a mustache and
Yeah,
a mouse.
caterpillars for a mustache.
Squeak, said Willow.
I think the caterpillars
Yes,
might
I
be in charge of the
understand.
whole place.
Come
Not
inside
just,
the
don't know
house. I'll
yet.
try to explain it the best I can.
Squeak, said
Red
Willow.
followed Mare Tumbledown through the small red door of the cottage to join Willow inside. The mare gestured for Red to sit down, and Willow
And again,
strolled off, returning with a pot.
Just sort of a little bit of an
As the
explanation.
three sat
It gets
down and
difficult
started
to
sip
save
the tea,
victims.
Mare Tumbledown began his
I thought, why
You see,
is
here
she
at Storybook
saving them? And
Woods,
it's just like,
Red
well,
started to
because
explain.
they're.
Storybook
This is what you
Woods,
do in
Red
Storybook Woods. You
interrupted.
save victims.
Yes, that's right. Well, here at Storybook Woods, we often
You
have
help.
guests.
It helps you
We
confront
cannot guide them.
your
In fact, they must guide us. And they have an obstacle
enemy.
to overcome. Do you see? Not really, snapped Red, becoming frustrated. Well, Red, you're a guest, an important one at that. You must travel through the woods and guide us out, if you see fit.
So I'm just doing a
You
lot
must
of the
confront
work. I
your
don't have
announcements.
to. I don't
How
have to
exactly
actually
do I
make
guide
an
you out,
excuse for saving
Red?
victims now because Mare Tumbledown
My
just
dear
said, "Well,
girl,
you just got to
you simply
save us." So
escort us to the exit
that's what you
and tell
do.
us to be gone.
I don't need
Mare
to think of a
replied.
reason why
Here, he
everybody's
said,
going to an
cramming his
exit
wrap
because
around. We are here
that's
at
what Red's been
Grandma's
told to
house.
do.
He
Lazy, well,
continued, scrolling
lazy
on.
writing gives me an opportunity to
Grandma's house.
not
Red
have to worry
interrupted
about it later
I
on.
was just on my way to Grandma's house, and I can assure you that this is not it, she finished. Yes. Well, this is what we call Grandma's house, the mayor continued. And the exits are here and
So
here.
we're really laying
he
it down
added,
now.
swiftly
Look,
drawing a crude map.
I
When you get
might
to
have
the
a
exit,
problem here.
just say
I
our
might
name
have
and be
wrote
gone.
myself into a little bit of a
So I
corner
would take you to the
because
exit
the way
and say,
the whole
Mare
universe
Tumbledown,
is
be
developing,
gone. Exactly.
I
the mayor
don't
said,
think
beaming.
you're
My
going to be
nemesis?
allowed to write in Storybook
Well,
Woods
the thing
because
is, my dear girl,
it's going to create another world, which is where the Into the Void story comes from. So with Mare Tumbledown having drawing a map, sort of contradicts that a little bit, but he's not writing, he's just drawing, so we'll get away with it.
Squeak, said
I
Willow.
think.
You must arm yourself,
Squeak,
Red,
said Willow.
and get us to safety. Squeak, said Willow, who then disappeared behind the sofa, rummaging through a pile of items. The wolf howled as it sniffed the air. My, so many, it mused to itself. No hurry today, it purred as it stalked its way
Yeah, I
south
really do
towards
like the
meadow,
wolf as a
where
character.
Dermot O'Shaughnessy was
And it's the
picking
first time,
juicy
obviously,
red
Hans
apples
didn't
from
really
the
have much
refrigerator
dialogue, but the
downside.
wolf sort of got a little bit more
Well,
personality.
what have we here? Dermot said, as the huge shape of the wolf.
And again,
strolled
got as far as
confidently.
Dermot.
Well,
and the next
aren't
characters
you a
that
big
come in
fellow?
after Dermot
The wolf said lazily. as he looked
are
at
fairy
Dermot
tale
up and
characters
down.
because I ran out of steam
It
for
was
making
true.
them up.
Dermot stood almost 7 feet tall. His bright, curly red hair framed
And
a
again,
face full
just sort of
questions.
like, you better be on your
You'd
way.
better not be after any
No,
trouble,
I think
little
I'll
doggy,
slay.
Dermot said to the
As in,
wolf.
instead of stay,
Trouble? The wolf said teasingly.
and to signify he
I
goes
think
into
a little
slay mode.
doggy like
There's a
me
lot of little things in
better
this that I
than
quite
pick a
liked.
fight with a gentleman your
I quite
size,
liked.
it
I
added.
like writing this.
Wolf raised
This
its
was
nose to the
fun
wind
to
and sniffed
write.
again.
It was a lot more
it
light-hearted,
said.
a lot more playful,
More.
I think.
Come closer, my pretty.
And then you're
added
still getting
authoritatively.
the
The bushes rustled as Jack and Jill.
you're still getting the tarot cards in.
More like
Yeah, so we've got Jack and Jill now,
growled in a sinister tone. Its
from the
eyes
fairy
flashing with
tales.
excitement.
or the nursery
Now,
rhymes.
I think you had better be going on your way now, Dermot said, his hand reaching towards the heavy wooden panking pole he carried with him.
Panking pole is a
The wolf
pole
said
used to hit
idly,
apples from
again
trees.
picking at his teeth with his massive claw.
Did you know?
You know
You
what?
do now.
Actually, I think I'll
Slay.
slay. The wolf's eyes flashed red as it sped towards Dermot. Leaping, it slashed down towards the huge man's throat with its razor-sharp claws. Slicing
Then we get the
Dermot's
sort
jugular with
of
a
skit on
swift
the
cut.
Jack fell down and
Vivid,
bumped his
bright red
crown.
blood sprayed
Jill
across the
came
peaceful
tumbling
surrounding
after
Storybook Woods
from the
as
nursery
Dermot
rhyme.
fell to the floor.
So I'm just trying to add,
The
you know, I'm
wolf
trying
turned
to
towards
sort of
Jack and
fuse
Jill,
in
the hunger in its eyes
nursery
visible
rhyme
and
characters at this
terrified.
point
Screaming,
because I'd run
Jack
out
and Jill
of
turned
ideas for,
straight into each other.
or run out of the
Bump.
impetus for
Jack
writing
fell
my
down
own
and bumped his
characters.
crown. Then Jill came tumbling after. The wolf was on them in a flash, its huge teeth ripping and tearing the flesh around Jack's neck, almost severing his head from his shoulders.
Painting
Jill
looks really
started
good
to
on
sit
this one.
up,
I think it's
just
because I
as the wolf
brightened up
leapt
the
on her
colours.
4 feet. The razor
My
claws
painting
sinking
isn't
into her
great,
abdomen.
but
Jill's intestines came
it comes
spilling
across
out
really
like
well on
dried
this video. The
sausage.
wolf and Red
The
both
wolf
look good, I
casually bent
think.
down, plucking the intestines from Jill and feasting on them to satisfy its ravenous hunger.
Ravenous Hunger
Sniffed
must
the
be a
air
tarot
again
card.
and vanished into the undergrowth. Sausages, Red said.
And
to
again,
Willow,
sausages.
her eyes
He
wide. I'm sorry, my
The
dear.
wolf,
Red
he
Tumbledown
is
started
actually a
to
she.
say, before he was interrupted by a gentle
She
rattling
spilled out the
of
sausages. Red said sausages. I'm just trying to build a connection subconsciously between
Again,
Red and the wolf there.
This time a little louder. Come out, wherever
I
you
missed the
are.
opportunity here. This
The
is
actual voice came
that
from
should have been the
On the third,
Jack
even
Nicholson
louder
line
rap,
from
the door
The
opened,
Shining.
and
Little
the residents
pigs,
of the cottage
little
saw the
pigs,
terrifying
let
shape
me
of the
in.
man. The huge bulk of the
Oh,
wolf,
I'm
his
not
white
going to get
fur
that
stained with
opportunity
blood,
again.
filled the doorway. Squeak, said Willow. The wolf locked eyes with
Willow's
Red.
dialogue easy to write.
It growled. And with those words, it sprang at the mare, clutching the strange little man in its powerful forearms and biting into his shoulder. Willow ran, heading for the door. Dropping the mare like a rag doll, the wolf
Has the
turned
caterpillar's
swiftly,
done a runner yet,
grabbing Willow
probably?
in its mouth and ragging her from side to side before flinging her against the bookcase. Squeak! Willow started to say as the wolf
Poor
devoured her
Willow.
head.
Right, Willow.
The two fat green
There
caterpillars
they go.
broke from the pile of books on the floor and quickly scuttled out of the window. Red sprinted for the door, grabbing the slingshot that Willow had unearthed in her rummagings as she did so. The wolf swiped at Red.
So what we've got is we've obviously picked up the
reached the door
slingshot,
and heard the dying
from the
words of Red
search.
tumble down echo behind her as she slammed it shut and headed
and
towards the
we're
glen.
doing a runner.
Remember, Red, it comes from within.
And again, a little
The words
clue
echoed as
there.
she
It
left the
comes
carnage
from
around Wolf's
within,
head. The wolf paused momentarily to
being
grab a bundle of
the
clothes, then set off
hint
with the
that the wolf has
Reaching
come
the glen,
from within
Red paused
Red
for
when we
breath.
get to the
She had to
reveal at the end,
focus.
and that's
What comes from within, she
that's what I was
thought.
trying to just sort of make sure when I went
Hi,
back
Red.
that all
The
this
chirpy
kind
voice
of
rang out.
stuff made sense
Red
about
looked
them
up towards the
being
tree.
split
Where are
personality,
all my
or the
furry
wolf
friends?
being
She said, relaxing slightly.
the bad parts
You
of
can do
Red
it, Red.
personality.
Squirrel said cheerily before scampering on.
Squirrel comes back.
I can do
All
it.
these characters
Red
come back.
jumping to
I
her
think
feet
even the
just as
dead
the
ones
wolf
might come
emerged from
back
Grandma's house towards her,
in the
nostrils
future. I
flaring
can
with
get away with
hatred.
that, surely.
Energized, Red sprang at the wolf, taking it by surprise. She landed a blow straight on the wolf's snout. It howled in anger.
But yeah, just
Red
finished
rolled
into the
away,
void,
springing
and
to
Squirrel's
her
in
feet,
into the
she began to
void
sprint away from the
briefly.
pack, unleashing a stone from the slingshot which caught the wolf directly between the eyes. The wolf howled again, its head stinging from the blow. It watched, disorientated, as Red slipped away from the glen toward the bridge to the dell. As Red reached the bridge,
And
she
this is the
noticed
first
what's
one.
changed. The bright cartoon-like colours
I
that had been
think
red
I put a
previously
little bit
away,
more effort into
engulfed
the
by a suffocating
into the
darkness.
narration of
Perfect.
certainly more editing,
As if this place wasn't creepy enough.
and
She stopped momentarily, checking to see if the wolf was following.
used the
Seemed to be all
music
clear.
more.
Red
No
cautiously
sound
stepped
effects
over the
yet.
bridge towards the menacing darkness of the
So,
dell.
and again, we've gone
Chill
into the
came in
dark bit of
as
the
she
woods.
entered the shady dell.
It
She peeked round the
fades
undergrowth to see
slightly,
a
the
young
music
girl dressed in a
changes.
smart
So I'm
white
sort
frock
of
carrying
at this
a
stage
shepherd's crook
of
frantically
producing
looking
these
around.
things. I'm just sort of
Have
playing
you seen
about with
them?
little
Have you seen them?
little
Red
things
voice
that
asked as Red approached.
hopefully
Seen
just
what
make it a little bit
exactly?
more
Red inquired.
appealing.
My sheep, silly.
Little Bo
Strangely,
Peep.
They were here. Then there was
Lost
all that
her sheep.
commotion, and they ran away. I simply don't know where to find them. Hold that thought.
And doesn't know
Red
where to
said
find them?
quickly as she sped off, leaving the confused girl behind. Red concentrated as she left the dell. If she remembered the crude sketch that Mayor Tumbledown had drawn correctly, then one of the exits should be right round the corner. Exhausted, Red stumbled from the dell and fell straight over a tuft of grass, knocking the girl sitting on it to the floor. Red sat on the dark grass, looking up at the girl and the strange tattooed.
Little Miss
behind her.
Muffet and Spider. So again,
She said to no one.
I've gone from making up my own characters to using
Meanwhile, in the semi-detached
fairy
house
tale
on the edge of the New
characters,
Forest,
and I think I
Susan
would have
was
just
about
about
to sit
gotten
down
away
on the
with
phone.
that
She
until I
answered with a
pulled
cheery, "Hello."
the Traveller's event card,
Susan,
and
it's
that's the one that
Constance.
changed a lot of things. So
I
we're
said.
back in the real
I
world
was
now.
expecting you an hour ago with my
Constance is
What's
definitely
going
coming
on?
back as a character,
I sent Chantal. You see, my
At
leg
some
is...
stage.
You sent my granddaughter.
and it's a kind of
Cut Susan off mid-sentence.
Susan's a bit
And when was
henpecked,
this?
I think, by
Constance
her
answered.
mother-in-law,
Well, she left here
Constance.
around about 10.
Well, she has,
Well, she has
not
not
arrived.
Susan, you better get over here and pray that nothing has happened to her. I'm sure she'll be...
Now,
Susan
Susan.
started to reply. Now, Susan, Constance snapped, and the line went dead. Back at the
Oh,
glen,
poor old
slowly
Susan.
got to its feet, rubbing its head with its massive paw. It mopped the blood dripping from between its eyes. Damn girl, when I find her, I'll huff and I'll
Another tarot
puff
card, I think.
and
I don't.
snarl. But first,
I haven't
think
used
I'll
the
take
tarot
care of
cards in
some
the
more of her
last
friends. It
3
chuckled,
stories I've
springing
written
northward
after.
from
This was
Glen.
my third
Mary
story I
had forgotten where
wrote,
she was going.
and I sort of moved
She
away
wandered
from
towards the
using the
path to
tarot
gingerbread
cards.
house, then
Sometimes
quite
it
suddenly
works, sometimes it
turned
seems
around
to
and
fit,
headed
sometimes
the
it
other way.
doesn't.
Bumping straight into the bulk of the wolf as she did so. Stumbling backwards, she fell to the floor. She can't save you, you know,
Mary, quite
the wolf
contrary.
said mockingly as it rested its giant clawed foot on Mary's fragile chest. She can try, my dear.
And then I'm just
She's
trying
not
to
strong
establish the
enough.
link between
See,
Wolf
I know
and
her.
Red
I
again
know her
here.
more than you can imagine.
So as
The
the
more I do
wolf
this,
is
the
killing
wolf continued, pressing down
Mary,
his huge hairy
it
foot
is
and starting
affecting
to crack Mary's
Red.
ribs.
So I'm just
The more I hurt
trying
you,
to sort of
the
play with the
stronger I
fact that
become.
Red is connected to
Finished the
both the
wolf as
wolf
it
and
stamped
to
down his
Storybook
foot onto
Woods
Mary's ribcage,
somehow. I don't really know
shattering
how
the
yet
ribs
at the
and
minute. But certainly the
penetrating
wolf
into the heart.
and Red's connection
Perhaps
is
you should
clear.
stick
But
to the gardening. The
I
wolf
think
said
red
dismissively, as Mary's
is going to be a
confused face
quite
looked at it.
powerful force
Red
in
clutched her chest,
the
sharp
world
pain
I'm
shot
going to
through.
end up creating.
Her eyes blazed with new determination.
Just
The girl
because
she had
her
knocked off the
ability
tufts of
to
grass twisted down her throat.
create and
That's the
manipulate
second scare
things
I
within
had
Storybook
today,
Woods,
she
don't know
scolded.
yet.
And I've already lost my curds. She reached her hand towards Red. Hello, Red.
Miss Muffet
I'm
lost her curds
Miss
in way.
Muffet. Red finished. Yes.
Another
Miss Muffet
nursery
beamed.
rhyme, fairy
This
tale.
is- Let me guess.
Spider?
The gangly boy with a large spider's web tattooed on his face smiled. Yes, indeed, said Mental Muffet. Now, I don't know what your intentions are, Red, but if I could suggest... I'm getting you out of here, Red said quickly. I believe this is the way. Follow me, she finished, and darted off, with Miss Muffet and Spider following behind.
Video's a bit
Quickly
lagging
reached the
here.
exit from Storybook Woods. Thank you, Red.
I
Muffet
wrote
said.
this
Are you beginning
so
to understand?
long
I think so, Red replied.
after I played
This
the
is
actual
Storybook
game. I just had
Woods.
the
And you were all characters.
the
You've all
photos
been written. Or told.
sitting on my phone for ages,
Yes, I remember now.
and they
They
were a bit
told
all
me
over the place.
from
So
the
I
stories my
remembered what was
father used
going
to
on,
tell
but when
me,
it came
I'd
to
almost
actually
forgotten.
snapping
But my
the
nemesis, the wolf.
shots
It
for the
seemed to know
video,
me,
it was quite difficult
Red
because
continued.
it
Look within
I
you,
didn't
Red,
have great
Miss
I
Muffet
couldn't
replied.
see where
Say
anything
no
was.
more.
So
Now, if you please.
there's a lot of
Oh,
things
yes,
that
sorry.
don't quite sync
Miss
up on the
Muffet, be
video.
gone. Spider, be gone, Red said deliberately. As the words left her mouth, both Spider and Miss Muffet began to fade. As they did so, an aura washed over them.
And again, I
New
think
strength.
actually
Energized, Red ran back to the dells.
This
finding
is
young girls still frantically searching the area.
one of the
Quick,
ones
follow me,
where I've
Red yelled
split
as she entered
the
dell. Oh, of
narrative
course,
between the
girl
wolf and
replied,
Red.
jutting out from
And
the
certainly in the last
Reaching
couple
the
I've
exit,
written, it's
Red
all been
quickly
from
said,
one
"Bo
person's
Peep,
point of
be
view.
gone."
And I don't know if it works
Thank you, Red.
well
Bo Peep said as she began to
splitting
speak.
the dialogue.
Here,
We'll
you
probably
might need
discuss this more when I
she added, dropping a pitchfork
come to the
on
Wolf
floor
Horror
in
one,
front of
because
Red,
the
disappearing.
dialogue
Wolf
there
lifted its
again is
huge
split
foot
between
from the body of
Hans
Mary.
and Laurie.
Felt slightly disappointed to
And
go home
whereas
without
we
one
get
fight.
further along
Die
with
so
my,
easily before she
more
could
recent
look at
stories,
the
it's more
jewels
from
of
one
light.
person's point of view.
It ran down
I
the
don't know if
path
it works
towards
better that
Gingerbread
way
House,
or
seeking
not.
more blood, smashing the small leg-shaped fellow in its way to the
Humpty
floor,
Dumpty
breaking him
goes.
into pieces.
Small
Wolf
leg-shaped
sniffed
fellow.
again, and howled
Oh,
in
this is one of my
frustration.
favourite kills.
Scent
This,
weakened.
I think, is one of my
New red
favourite
cheese
kills that
lit
I've
its brain.
written. This is
It mused.
this is gonna
I
be-
see you've worked out the secret, young
not
lady.
this one.
Well,
Coming
two
up
can
in a
play
minute.
at that game. It growled to
Right.
itself.
So
You see,
what
Red,
we've got here
If there's a
is I pulled
storyteller in
Travellers.
you, then there's a
So I've got to get 6 more
storyteller in
victims.
me. Now,
I've run out of
Wolf concentrated hard.
ideas for creating my own
Once upon a
victims.
time,
I've kind of
question
run
answered
out of no, that was Once Upon a Time.
Storybook
Then I
Woods
pulled
shook.
Travellers.
The sky flashed
I've
bright.
run out of ideas
Purple and
for
violet rays filled the air.
fairy tale characters. I
The
just
smell of
couldn't
fresh ink
think of any
permeated
more that I
Wolf's nostrils.
wanted to write. So I
smiled a
thought,
toothy
I'll
grin,
tell you what, I'll use the
slipping
characters
cornices
that I've
taken
written,
from Grandma's
or
house
Red
onto
has
the
written.
As a strange portal opened.
A strange portal opened.
The two travellers
And
stepped through.
Red
A
has
huge
written
light
these
sign
characters
confronted them.
at the beginning of the story.
Well,
She was
hello,
writing it. And now
said
the
menacingly.
wolf has pulled in the
Okay,
characters
Laurie,
that
good
Red
luck,
has written.
Susie smiled.
So that
Or
should
at
give
least
you a
tried to.
clue that these
Deacon
are
Susie
one,
ran towards
the
town,
Wolf and Red are
leaving
one of
Camp
the
Happy
same
Trails in
people.
the
And we go
distance.
back here to Camp
As
Happy
they ran, the
Trails.
strange purple and
Deacon
violet
Susie,
haze
who
started
was
to surround them.
Laurie got
The sky
out,
became brighter,
running
almost
away from Camp
cartoon-like,
Happy Trails,
as they stumbled forward from the dirt road onto the soft
into
grass clearing.
a portal,
Well,
because the wolf has
hello.
opened the portal
Sinister voice
because
rang through
he's
the
got
air.
some kind of
His arrows
power to
just
create or
Deke stopped dead.
draw
as the
in
doors
characters from other
massive portal into his
stories,
throat. What
both
the?
her,
He gurgled, the bright red blood
the
frothing
wolf
from his
and
mouth
Red.
as the wolf
So
threw
Deke
one
and
side
Susie
into
run
Susie.
from
Out of the frying
out of the
pan.
frying pan into the fire. Exactly. So they
so
run
to
from Camp
speak,
Happy Trails
the wolf
through a
said.
portal into Storybook Woods
Nice
and get
doggy.
skewered.
Would you like to have
And again,
some
this is
sweets?
referred to at the beginning
Susie
of
said
Wolf
nervously,
Horror
backing away from the wolf.
with Susie, who
No,
doesn't die, but she,
I think
you know,
not,
she's
Wolf replied,
described as
before letting out
raving,
nerves
you know,
shattering
been
around.
committed back in the
Susie
real
fainted.
world, raving about a white
What's
wolf
all this
because she
commotion?
fell into Storybook
Old
Woods.
Mother Hubbard
Old Mother
asked as she
Hubbard is
approached
my
the scene.
favourite kill.
A
Here we
bemused
go.
and still slightly drunk Michael and Jenny Wilson
Coming up.
faded in
Oh yeah, Mike and Jenny
She
Wilson
looked down
from
at Susie, who started to come round.
Maple Lane,
Susie sat up
straight in.
and screamed at the top
And
of her voice. Oh, hush now, Mother Hubbard said
Jed
soothingly to
and
Susie. It's just a harmless old woman.
Martha
Are you
from
joking?
Maple Lane in a minute.
Susie screamed. Look at the size of its
Look at the
big
size of its
teeth.
big teeth.
All the better to... Well, you get the point, Wolf said, ripping off Grandma's bonnet.
And
Meanwhile, back on the edge of the New Forest...
right,
Susan
so
arrived.
back in the real
Upstairs
world,
and rang the doorbell. The door opened
Susan has
swiftly,
been
as
out
if
looking for
Constance
Red.
was waiting
Obviously
right
found
behind
her
it.
passed out, so
Constance's
her
face dropped as
body
she saw what
isn't
Susan was
in
holding.
Storybook
Susan
Woods,
staggered
but
into
her
Constance's
consciousness
cottage,
is
struggling with the weight of her lifeless stepdaughter
is the
carried in her arms.
intention here.
The study, Constance Constance said. Hurry!
Oh, now we're revealing
Susan carefully
Constance has
placed Red's
got
body down on the leather-top desk
some
in the
kind of
study.
involvement in all
Constance
this. I think
Red's
she's a
eyelids
witch
revealed
or
blank eyes.
something like that.
Fetch the books. I'll prepare the tincture.
Books and
Constance
tinctures,
ordered.
that's kind of witchy.
Red picked up the pitchfork as the purple and violet mist
We're coming
around
towards
Stork
the sort of ending of
chanting
it now.
words Once upon a time.
Right, so this is
Echoed around
Travellers.
her in a familiar, sinister tone.
They've
Red's
come
eyes
in.
darted around as she heard a very
And
distant voice.
The
Jedediah Jackson, what
Jedediah
on earth
Jackson,
is going on?
that's
The voice echoed through the woods.
Martha and Jed from
Red pinpointed the source
Maple Lane.
and ran towards
Come back
it,
in.
bursting from the dark.
Red's heard them, recognises them because she wrote
Martha,
Maple Lane.
Jed, Red yelled as she approached the elderly couple.
And they say to
Well,
her,
hi, sweetie.
why did
Martha
you
said
bring
warmly.
us here? Well, it wasn't
I've
Red that
not the
brought us here, it
darndest
was the
clue what's
wolf.
happening here. I'm sure it's
So
all
I'm
this
just
one's
trying to
fault,
build
she
the
said
fact that there's a
emotionally.
connection there.
Now then, Martha.
And Red now
Red began.
realises that
Look, Red said.
the wolf
it's
is
not
part
his
of
fault.
her.
Something's happening that I
Because
can't
Martha
explain.
says,
Please,
no,
just follow me.
I heard you
She
call
disappeared
us
back
here, and
towards
it was the
exit.
wolf that called
Well,
her.
you
So
heard
they're
the
one and the
girl.
same person. Is the implication that
Scoot.
should come across like
As
that.
they reached the exit, Martha turned to
Here we
her,
go.
grabbing her by the upper arms. Looking her author straight in the eye,
Her
she
author,
said,
straight in
Red,
the eye.
why did you bring us here? What? Red replied, I didn't. Oh, sweetie, we heard you call as clear as day. Ain't that right, Jed? Jed nodded. Red started.
So yeah,
I think I
so
understand.
the wolves brought them there.
Thank you,
Martha said, why did you bring
With
us
that,
here
Red
to
uttered,
Red?
Martha, be
She
gone.
said, I didn't.
Jed, be gone.
Martha said, yeah, I
The energy
heard you
again
call
washed
us.
over Red as she
It was the
grabbed
wolf
the
that was calling
quiet.
us because they're the
It's
same
time to set
person,
the
or
ambush.
part of the same person, or the wolf has been
The wolf
formed from
smiled
the parts of
menacingly.
Red, which will
Oh,
then be
come
revealed
now,
at the end
Mother.
of it.
Didn't you bring my bone? Or was it
Confused?
the colored
I am.
bear again?
Not really.
Now you stay back. You
This is
fiend.
my favourite kill.
Mother Hubbard stammered. I think not, retorted the wolf, stepping slowly closer towards
Approaches Mother Hubbard and
I'm
goes,
warning you, the old lady said, brandishing a
dangerous looking wooden spoon.
towards the wolf. Really? The wolf said. Boo!
Boo.
It shouted. The old lady stumbled backwards.
So the wolf just
her
says,
foot twisting in a
"Boo."
ragged scrape, sending her tumbling to the ground. head
And,
cracking on a large rock,
Mother
with
Hubbard
life
falls
fading from
over.
her eyes.
And dies.
The wolf roared with laughter and turned slowly towards Jenny and Michael Wilson. Suddenly it stopped. Its ears pricked forward as it heard
And
the
then,
sound carrying on the wind.
obviously, we're now on to
Lucky,
the
lucky,
finale
said,
with
wagging
Red
its claw finger at the Wilsons.
fighting
Turning
against the
running
wolf,
from
and then we get the
Oh,
reveal,
grandmother!
really.
Red
And again,
called
still
out,
pulling the
hitting
tarot
the
cards in
dice
here.
with the
So this
pitchfork
was the
and
Traveller's
the
tarot
barrel.
cards that forced me into
Grandmother,
writing, well,
look
didn't
who's been
force me,
getting
prompted
treats
me
with
into
grandmother.
to bringing in
Come here, you
characters
bitch.
from my other
She
story,
mumbled
which
to herself
led me
quickly,
down the
climbing
route of
near
Storybook
one tree,
Woods
her
being
pitchfork poised, ready to
almost
strike.
like a place that
Suddenly,
can
the wolf
certainly
burst into the
use
clearing.
characters
She
or
lifted
draw
her
in
nose to the air, picking up
characters,
the scent
but
of red fractions
Into
too
the
late
Void
to
takes
feel
that one
dice
step
from the tree.
further, and it's a
The
place
bolt
that
of the
can
pitchfork
create
blade squarely back
worlds.
to the wolf's neck.
And
The wolf's sharp instinct
so that
saved
was an
her. She
interesting,
dodged slightly to the right,
an interesting event card to
instead
pull that
sinking deep into the wolf's shoulder.
really shaped
The wolf
probably
howled in pain. Her
everything
bright
I'm going to
white
write
fur
in
darkened
future.
as she staggered backwards
We'll
away
see.
from her. Red came again with the pitchfork, stabbing it directly
And we're having
towards the
a
unsteady wolf, sinking it into her stomach.
Music change again
Wolf
for
howled
the
again, slowly
finale.
reached down to her stomach, feeling the wound. Slowly, the wolf wiped the blood from her penetrating wound in her stomach onto her paw. She lifted the paw to her mouth, savouring the taste of her fresh blood on her rollicking pink tongue. Very good, Red. she
Yes,
growled.
Red.
But you're not out of the woods
Not out
yet.
of the woods, are
she
you?
snapped,
No,
springing
that's a
forward
tarot
towards
card,
her.
isn't it?
Red
Yes,
tightened,
it is.
just as the wolf's jaw snapped shut, catching Red's right arm and removing a large chunk of flesh. On the desk in the study, Red's
So-
body jerked with violent convulsion.
We're back in the
tincture.
real world,
Hold it
and we're
tight to
flicking
her head.
between the two quite quickly now. This is a bit
But hold it
jarring,
still,
actually,
goddammit.
because it kind of,
Constance opened a large leather book.
the music
began
comes
to
and
chant the
goes, and
incantation.
so
Dara potere al narratore, mandeli la mia forza.
is Italian for
You can't beat me,
protect
Red,
the storyteller,
the wolf
grant
said.
me her
You
strength,
aren't
something like
strong
that, or
enough.
grant
She
her
lunged
my
at Red
strength,
with her
something
massive
like that.
claws. Red parried with the pitchfork. You know who I am?
So,
Wolf
here we
asked
go,
him.
here's the reveal.
I know who you
I
are.
know who you are.
Red replied,
You're me.
spitting blood to the floor. You're me. Oh, I'm more than that, Red Wolf replied.
So,
I'm your strength.
Red
she
Wolf
boomed,
is now...
swiping at Red with her massive
We changed the pronoun as well. We went from
Red's
it
leg.
to her
Study
just before this
Red's body
happened, and now
convulsed
she's
again.
a she rather
losing
than
her
an
Constance.
it.
Susan
And
shouted.
Red's being beaten up.
Constance
Her
chanted
real
louder.
body in the real world is now
Dare
sort of
potere
convulsing,
mandele
and
la mia
Constance is trying
forza.
to use her powers to help
I'm your
Red Wolf.
power.
And
Red Wolf growled.
Red Wolf now
Swiping
is
again at
almost
Red, slicing
taunting
her cheek
Red,
with the razor
saying,
claws.
you know, without me you're nothing.
Again,
I'm
Red's
your
body in the stomach
strength.
jerked
I'm your
convulsions.
power.
Blood began to trickle from
You know,
her
you're
nose.
weak without me.
Dare potere al narratore, mandele la mia forza.
And
Constance
then,
chanted.
obviously, we
I'm
get the
all
bit
you could have been.
where Red
Red Wolf snapped
sort of
hatefully, picking
turns
up Red's
round and
body
says-
tossing it across the
says,
floor,
"No,
stooping to offer her snarl,
you're
bloody
not the
jaws
best
inches
parts
from
of
Red's
me.
face. Red flailed for the broken
You're the
pitchfork,
worst parts of
summoning
me.
enough strength to jam the shaft between Red Wolf's teeth just as the jaws began to close. No, spat Red. You're my anger.
So, you know,
she said,
what you
lifting
think
her
is
knee sharp
strength
into
is
Red
actually
Wolf's
weakness. You know,
Breach fell
you're my
backwards.
anger, you're my
Red advanced.
hatred.
You're my hatred, she said, smashing a punch.
You're
into
my
the creature's
weakness.
jaw. You, Red landed another blow. Ah! Again the punches rained down on the creature. Another punch. Failure.
You're my
Final
failure.
process, Red Wolf,
So
flying backwards
what
to the
Red
floor.
Wolf thought was
Red Wolf looked
being
up at
strong,
her body stinging.
Red has actually
You won't kill
called
me,
out
Red,
as you know, her
said.
negative
Without
traits, and
me, you're
actually
just a
without
goody
you,
two-shoes.
I'm better.
Yeah,
And you know, I can
replied.
defeat you with
Ain't
my
that good,
positivity.
she said,
There's a
as she plunged the broken
good
hand
message for you
towards Red
kids.
Wolf's heart.
You don't need
Red
your
Wolf
anger
howled
and
in pain.
hatred.
Then her body
Let
went
go
limp.
your anger.
In the study, Red's eyes
And then
shot
we
open
get
at
the
start. She
we
frowned.
get the fact that
Grandma?
Red won.
She said weakly.
Red then wakes up,
Shush, child.
and she's
Constance
in
said, gently
Constance's
stroking Red's hair.
study.
Grandma, I beat it, Grandma. I
Oh
killed
no,
the
you
wolf.
can't kill a wolf because we want
Shush.
the wolf to come back
Constance
because we
said,
like the wolf as a
Only
character
it was that simple, Constance continued. You see, my sweet child, you can't kill a wolf
in
in
Storybook Woods.
Red looked at her grandma blankly. You will have weakened it for sure. It will now only hunt by the moon.
So that was an idea I
killed
had
it?
when we went in.
No. My God, Constance, if it gets out, said Susan worriedly. Yes, Susan, I think we all remember the 1981 incident.
1981
Constance-
incident, obviously a reference to American Werewolf in London.
Constance turned to the large gilt-framed mirror.
What happens if the wolf gets out? Might find out.
Waves began to form over the mirror, and the picture of the seemingly
Then
young
obviously
wolf
we've got a
traditional
problem
Bavarian
because there's a
bloke,
wolf still
The only thing
dormant at the
relying on
minute in
Gil's age
Storybook
were her eyes.
Woods.
eyes that had
But
seen 1,000 stories.
you know, we might need to call in a
Gretel,
specialist.
Constance said. We may need your help. Again? Gretel replied in her thick German accent. Oh, Constance, you are
Oh,
careless.
Constance, you are careless. Not really a thick German accent, it's just
Elsewhere,
a subtle German
in a
accent.
dark
there.
basement, Evan looked down at the game board
And then we
smiled
come
to
back,
himself as he
and
scribbled
we
notes
thought,
on his
oh
notepad.
well, it's a story within a
How many
story, but
stories?
actually it's a game that's created a story that's within a story. It's like, my God, it's gone everywhere. It's what's that bloody Leonardo DiCaprio film? Inception. About 17 layers deep. So there we go. And like I say, there's a lot to explore from that. The most sort of obvious one is the fact that we've now got Red, who can bring characters into Storybook Woods. I think we've got Storybook Woods, which is capable of creating worlds. We've got Constance, who I think is something to do with witchcraft, or maybe part of a coven. We've got Gretel, who is obviously a badass who's going to try and come in at some stage and fight the wolf. Maybe we've got the wolf itself, who's still alive, and I think it's got a good enough personality to bring back. Like I say, I think it's going to come back as probably both a final girl and a villain at some stage. And I think I've got a lot of explaining to do, which is why I like this so much, because I've left such a lot unanswered in this one that it draws me in to want to come back and write some more about it. So what I got noted down here as to discuss is as I wrote, the wolf became a character. I got a feeling that there's more to the story and it could continue. Yeah, just discuss that. The main characters, Red Wolf, Constance, Gretel, are interesting and will return. Yeah, absolutely. The characters are written as made-up fairy tale. The characters are written as made-up fairy tales from other stories, and then I ran out of ideas. Travellers took me down the drawing in from other stories route, which shaped the whole universe. I missed the shining opportunity. So I think I've sort of covered all that. And I got a feeling that this is probably the least commented on. And I got some feedback about the tone of it being sort of a lot different. No bad feedback at all, but just not quite probably not quite what you expect from a Final Girl story, simply because it's less horror, it's more, I don't know, fantasy type thing. But I enjoyed writing that one, and I think I was trying to get across a lot of the points I was trying to get across, hopefully came across, which was the split between the people as Red and the wolf as she went in. But what will come of it is more, and I think what I might need to do is, like I did for the prequel to Wolf Horror, a little bit of backstory on Hans and Laurie. I might need to do a little bit of backstory on Storybook Woods. I've got an idea that I might sort of like need to have Red and her grandma having a conversation where sort of like, we could call it, Grandma, tell me about Storybook Woods, and we can just sort of lay out what the ground rules of the place are. So anyway, That is going to be the precursor to the follow-up to that is going to be Into the Void, which I've just finished writing, and this has just given me the whole opportunity to weave a lot of stuff together. So that's something to look forward to in the future if you sort of stick around and follow what we keep doing. So anyway, hopefully this will probably be released just before Into the Void is ready. I've just finished writing it now. I'm going to start recording it. So look out for that one coming soon, and this will tide you over for the time being, and hope to see you all soon. Take care, guys. Bye bye.